So I wanted to make a statement about FOBs, people fresh off the boat. So white people don't know this, but coconuts do. Coconut is people who grew up here that are brown, while FOBs are the people who grew up in their own country, like India, Pakistan, etc. So these FOBs, they're not good people. I think most white people don't know this because we're told to be, respect diversity and all these things. But a lot of these FOBs, they're murderers and thieves. They're psychopathic in nature. And down in America, you will see Trump talking about this with respect to Mexican FOBs. And Mexican Americans actually probably hate Mexican immigrants the most, especially the illegal ones. But even the legal ones, especially from India, Pakistan, and I've heard Chinese coconuts, Chinese kids who grow up here also talk about this with respect to Chinese FOBs, that like these people from poorer countries, they're psychopaths by Western standards. Like you probably wouldn't want your children playing with them. There's a lot of Arabs in my city, and all the bullying or the kids acting violent in school seems to be Arabs and Afghans. And back in the UK, it tends to be brown kids. In America, it's often Mexican kids that are the misbehaviors. And even adult FOBs, they're almost like 12 or 15-year-old people, like even as 50-year-old people. If you go to these countries, you'll see grown men fighting each other over nothing, because like the stage of development, and it's like a dog eat dog. That's their mentality. And you'll also see it in movies. Watch Bollywood or like that's all I know, and observe carefully how people are behaving, and you'd be quite astonished, like the way they speak, or the logic going on in these movies are not realistic, and they're not trying to be realistic, but it's quite shocking. It's almost like 100 years ago. And I've seen people who come from India, Pakistan. There's a lot in my area, and there also I have cousins, etc. And you'll see them. They speak like they're in the 1950s of America. If you watch 1950s movies, people kind of talk too quickly, and they kind of acting like it's. I don't so there's a lot of chatter, but it's all fake chatter, and they believe if you talk quickly, you kind of bullshit and be kind of vicious. That's being clever, or it's kind of silly. It's kind of it's politically incorrect. Just about everything they do is politically incorrect. It's mind-blowing, and because they just seem to not think in a way that you are accustomed to if you go through Western education and go through Westerners, where there's fairness and rights of the individual, and respecting people's right to be weird, or knowing that people make gaffes and things go wrong, and it's okay. But their mentality is often it's kind of it's like opportunistic. You just seize on things, and you just kind of murder each other. You know, if you can get away with it, you do it. That's how they think. In my family, you know, my grandparents used to they encouraged mischief. And I get it. It's like from Sparta, you know, they're trying to create vicious people for a dangerous world. But it's like, how did the West win? It's by putting down laws which prevent that kind of extreme viciousness where you just win by being a psychopath. It's like to turn it more into like productivity should be the winner, not the most vicious killer. My conclusion of what is an action item, I think there needs to be more rigorous testing of who comes in the country. Like, we're allowing people in that, you know, in my family, there's people who've come who cannot read and write. They're just like deranged. They could learn how to read and write, but they don't. You know, I heard it. So the thing that protects against all this psychopathy is education. Like, if you force. So I've noticed that among the people I know from these FOB countries, that the more educated they are, the more they seem to have a fairness mindset and understand, you know, they're more well-mannered. So if you enforce this, the Western countries could have stricter requirements for entry. And it's weird how I'm saying it, but also, I mean, in most countries you'll find that if you ask the older immigrants whether they want newer ones coming, they say no, because they're the ones who have to deal with these people the most. It's like often the whites in that country, they don't know and they can't tell what's going on, because often these FOBs will show one face, like a well-mannered Uncle Tom face to the whites, and then they show their psychopathy to the other browns that grew up here. And it's like, I mean, ask a white person to go to a poor country and color their face dark and see how they get treated. They'll get thieved and stolen from in a day, in hours. And so that's what brown people, and Chinese and etc. experience here when you let in these people from these countries. They're used to viciousness, and so they do it wherever they can, except against whites, because they know, like, they're scared to. They really think something's bad's going to happen, except, you know, some Mexican or whatever. That there's some places in England, for example, for Pakistanis will come in. There's places where there's such a concentration that they're even not scared of committing acts against whites. So education is the answer, and you can limit who comes in through the education. One thing especially I'm concerned about is cousin marriages. Like, don't allow cousin marriages, immigrants, to come into the country. That will discourage cousin marriage in those countries, and that's a huge problem, particularly for Pakistan. India less so, and often you'll find that Indians tend to do better. It's Pakistanis or people from Muslim countries that tend to be the problem, because the Muslim religion encourages psychopathy in a sense. It's like they have kind of a mindset of just do, don't think. They're like, be a warrior. And it often translates into psychopath in the nature of Muslims. Like, I'm not anti-Muslim, I'm a Muslim. And the original purpose of that kind of thinking is to be a hero and do the right thing. But in the minds of many, it gets translated to psychopathic nature. And by rigorous education requirements, I mean, don't even look at their certificates. Like, they should be proficient in English, reading and writing, and if they claim to be, they have a degree in like computers or physics or whatever, give them tests in the embassy in their country under supervision of embassy staff to really make sure that they are who they're claiming to be, because often they lie. They'll lie about their age. Nowadays you can have genetic tests, and they'll lie about whether they're even children of whoever they're claiming to be, or etc. And you can probably have biological testing to determine age. So be rigorous, because and as a side effect of that, you'll cause an increase in actual productivity in those countries, which benefits everyone. Like, if immigrants want to come in, give them a test. Maybe even they can be tests at the embassy where they don't even need a degree. So, a poor kid in Pakistan could study and just go to the embassy, pass the exam, and gain entrance to a Western country. And so, it's like a lot can be done. The Western countries have to think like they are paternalistically, like they can set the standards for the world, and the way they can do that is by their immigration policy, because that directly affects pretty much the entire rest of the world. Everyone in a poor country, their dream is to get to a rich country, and so it's a no-brainer. It's like you can get what you want, and there's a few countries that are on this kind of trend, Canada and Australia, but they need to increase their standards, like I was describing, that have rigorous testing at embassies. And even if you want to sponsor family members, you have to force them to comply. You can't just allow family members, everyone can study. Like, Saddam Hussein managed to get the entire country of Iraq to 99% literacy by simply stating that anyone who's illiterate will go to jail. And you would force all these people in countries like that want to come here to become illiterate if they knew that that's the only way to get to the Western country. And so once you've done that, you would change the character of these people, and you change the character of their country. And eventually these countries would get rich, because if everyone became literate, and then by literacy they also became fairness-minded and productive, they wouldn't even want to come here. So if you're a racist and you don't want brown people coming to this country, this would be a policy that you can apply.